She kicked her husband out because he was poor. 2 years later, that same man walked into her father's company, not as a worker, but as the man who bought the entire business. How did this happen? What made him so rich? Why was her father's company up for sale? And what did she do when she saw him again? Sit back and find out as we dive into this shocking story that will change how you see success, love, and respect forever. This is the story of a young man named Kwame, a man who had nothing. No job, no car, not even a house of his own. But what he did have was love. It was a bright Saturday morning in Kumasi, Ghana. Inside a small room at the Golden Tulip Hotel, Kwame stood in front of the mirror. He was wearing a black suit, the only good suit he owned. His hands were shaking as he fixed his tie. Today was his wedding day. He smiled at his own reflection, but his eyes told the truth, he was worried. Deep inside, his heart was heavy. He whispered to himself "I love her, but I have no money." His best friend Kofi walked into the room carrying a small camera. "Yai, Kwame. You're still standing here. The bride is almost ready. Come on." Kwame laughed nervously and turned to Kofi. "Do you think I'm making a mistake?" Kofi looked confused. "Why would you say that? You're marrying the woman you love." Kwame sighed heavily. "I understand, but Abina is used to luxury. Her father, Nana Ose, paid for everything, even this suit I'm wearing. I don't even have a proper job. What if I can't give her the life she's used to?" Kofi walked closer and placed his hand on Kwame's shoulder. "Listen, you may not have money now, but you have a good heart. Abina sees that, and that's why she said yes. Just trust God and trust yourself. One day, you'll be the one paying for other people's weddings." Kwame smiled slowly. "Amen." There was a knock on the door. A voice shouted, "Kwame. The bride is coming downstairs." Kwame stood up straight, picked up the small black ring box, and walked to the door with Kofi beside him. Today might be the beginning of a good life, or a painful lesson. Downstairs at the Kumasi Cultural Center, guests were already seated. The hall was decorated with beautiful Kent patterns in gold and red. Traditional phantom from drums played softly as waiters served kelewele and sobolo. Then the music changed. Everyone turned. Abina stepped into the hall looking like a Ghanaian princess. Her white dress was adorned with gold adinkra symbols. She held a bouquet of local flowers, and her makeup was flawless. Her smile was white, but her eyes, they looked like she had something on her mind. She walked slowly with her father, Nana Ose, a wealthy businessman who owned Ose Construction Limited, one of Ghana's biggest building companies. Nana Ose smiled proudly, his Kent cloth draped majestically over his shoulder. The pastor, speaking in English mixed with Twi, smiled as he looked at the couple. "Do you, Kwame, take Abina as your wife?" Kwame looked into her eyes and said, "Yes, I do. With all my heart." "Do you, Abina, take Kwame as your husband?" Abina looked around. Her eyes met her father's. Nana Ose nodded at her slowly. She turned back to Kwame. "Yes. I do. You may now kiss the bride." Everyone clapped. The Panlogo drums thundered, and people danced in their chairs. Others wiped tears from their eyes. The camera lights kept flashing. Kwame held Abina's hand tightly. His smile was white, but his heart was still bothered. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me, even when I have nothing." Abina gave a small smile, but said nothing. Kwame was ready to love her with all he had, even though all he had was hope. But hope alone wouldn't be enough for what was coming. 2 months later, Abina sat in her father's luxurious office in Airport City, Accra. She wore a new Ankara dress with gold jewelry. Her nails were perfectly manicured, and she looked wealthy, because she was. Nana Ose pushed a file across his mahogany desk. "Sign here. I believe this role as executive assistant to the CEO is perfect for you. As my right-hand person, you learn the business from the ground up. When the time comes, you'll be ready to take over Ose Construction." Abina picked up the gold pen and signed with a smile. "Daddy, thank you for everything. You've made work so easy for me." Nana Ose smiled back. "Of course. You're my only child. You deserve the best. Meanwhile, in their modest apartment in Dansiman, Kwame sat on their small sofa. The ceiling fan turned slowly above him. His laptop was on his lap, and his eyes were tired. He had just sent his 15th email of the day. "Please find attached my proposal for your upcoming project," he typed. He stopped and looked around the room, empty, quiet, cold. He whispered, "You rate, please, just one yes. Just one contract will change everything. God, please." In the beginning, Abina was sweet. She would cook banku and tilapia for Kwame. She would sit beside him and say, "Don't worry, me do, my love, things will get better." But that sweet voice didn't last long. One morning, Kwame was still in bed. The fan turned slowly above him. His laptop was open, resting on his lap. He wasn't watching movies or playing games, he was searching. He clicked through construction websites, checked his emails, hoping maybe one company had replied. Maybe today someone would call him for a building contract. But his inbox was empty. Then Abina walked into the room. She was dressed for work in a sharp business suit. Her hair was neatly styled, and her expensive perfume filled the air. She looked at Kwame and paused. "You're still in bed?" she asked sharply. Kwame looked up. "I've sent out some proposals this morning. There's this new housing project in Tima. I applied for it." Abina laughed coldly. "Kwame, every week you talk about new projects. Every time it's, I applied for this or I submitted for that. But nothing ever comes out of it." Kwame sat up slowly. "You know I'm a civil engineer. Government contracts don't just fall from the sky. It takes time." "Time," she snapped. "It's been months since we married. How many sites have you worked on?" "0. You sit here clicking and hoping while I go out and work every single day." Kwame's mouth went dry, but he still tried to speak. "Abina, I'm not lazy. You know I'm not." She threw her hands up. "All I know is that I'm tired. Tired of paying bills, tired of pretending everything is fine, tired of being the man in this house." She turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Kwame stared at the laptop screen. The words there didn't matter anymore. He slowly closed it. The silence in the room pressed on his chest. He was a man, he was educated, but right now he felt useless in his own home. Something inside him started to break. But this was just the beginning of his humiliation. That evening, the doorbell rang. Kwame opened the door to find his old university friend Kofi standing there with a bright smile, holding a bag full of fan ice and soft drinks. "Oh, my brother." Kofi smiled wide. "Surprise visit." "Kofi." Kwame smiled for the first time that day. "You didn't even tell me you were coming. That's why it's called a surprise." Kofi laughed. "I brought some fan ice and Coca-Cola. Let's sit and catch up." They sat in the living room. The fan made a soft sound above them. The TV was off. The room was quiet. Kofi passed the fan ice to Kwame. "Eat, bro. You look like someone who hasn't smiled in months." Kwame took it and laughed. "It's not easy, Joe. Life is just hard these days." Kofi nodded. "I know. I've been there. But don't give up, Kwame. You're smart. One day everything will turn around." Kwame looked down. "Abina doesn't believe in me anymore. She talks to me like I'm nothing." Kofi sat up. "Listen, just keep pushing. You don't need 10 people to believe in you, just one person. And I believe in you." Kwame smiled, but his eyes were red. Just then, Abina walked into the room. Her arms were crossed, her face stern. "So this is what you do when I'm not home? Sit with your jobless friend and eat fan ice?" Kofi stood up, surprised. "Oh, good evening, Abina." She ignored him completely. "Kwame, do you even feel shame? You're here laughing like everything is fine." Kwame stood slowly. "He's my friend. He came to check on me." Abina hissed and walked away without another word. Kofi turned to Kwame. "Is this how she talks to you every day?" Kwame said nothing. He just sat back down. Kofi looked at his friend for a long time. Kwame, you need to do something fast, or this woman will destroy you. Kwame nodded. His eyes were calm, but his heart had started to burn. That night would be the night everything changed forever. That night, the room was quiet. The lights were off, but the pain was still there. Kwame sat on the edge of the bed. Abina was already lying down, facing the wall. He took a deep breath and spoke softly. Abina, I want to talk. She didn't answer. Please, he continued. What you said today in front of Kofi, it broke me. Still no answer. You laughed at me. You called me weak in front of my friend. Abina slowly turned to face him, her voice sharp. So now I can't talk in my own house because your friend was here. Kwame looked at her, his eyes low. That's not it. I just want you to believe in me. You know I'm trying every day. I send out proposals, I follow up, but it's hard out there. He paused, then added, maybe you can talk to your father. He knows big people. If he helps me get one small contract, I will prove myself. Abina sat up at once. So that's it, she said loudly. This is why you married me, right? For my father's connections. Kwame looked shocked. No, Abina. I love you. I only asked for a chance. Keep your chance to yourself, she shouted. You want to use my father now? You think he'll just hand you a job because you married me? Kwame tried to hold her hand, but she pulled away. I regret saying anything, he said quietly. Abina hissed, turned her back again, and pulled the blanket over her shoulder. Next time, think before you speak, she said, and closed her eyes. Kwame sat there alone in the dark. His chest was heavy. His heart was tired. That night, sleep did not come to him. But unknown to Kwame, his breakthrough was just around the corner. 1 week passed. The house stayed quiet. Abina only spoke when it was necessary. Kwame spent most of his time in their small study corner, still sending out building proposals. One morning, his phone rang. It was Kofi. Kwame picked up quickly. Hello, bro. Guy. Kofi's voice was full of joy. I have news. Big news. Kwame smiled. Tell me, I'm ready. I got the job. That big company I told you about, Anglo Gold Ashanti. They picked me. I signed yesterday. Kwame's smile grew wider. Kofi, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Wait, that's not all. Kofi laughed. They gave me a brand new Toyota Camry and guess what? I also got a 3-bedroom apartment in East Legon. Kwame's hand froze on the phone. His voice came out slow. Wow, bro, this is big. I'm really proud of you. You're next, man. I believe in you. Just keep pushing. Kofi said. Kwame nodded slowly, even though Kofi couldn't see him. Thank you, Kofi. They ended the call. Kwame put the phone down and looked around the room. He was happy for his friend, truly, he was. But deep inside, something else was growing. Something quiet. Something sad. He looked at his laptop. The screen was still open. The cursor blinked, waiting. Kwame sat back and closed his eyes. He whispered, God, what about me too? And once again, silence answered him. But God was about to answer his prayer in the most unexpected way. It was a bright Monday morning. Kwame wore his cleanest shirt, then sprayed his 1 million perfume and looked at himself in the mirror. He picked up his file full of building proposals. He had a big meeting with McDan Construction that morning. He walked to the garage and looked at Abina's second car, a Honda Civic. He had never touched her cars without asking, but she had already gone to work with the main one, a Range Rover, and he didn't want to miss this important meeting. He took a deep breath. Just for today, he said quietly. He opened the door and entered the car. His heart was beating fast. He didn't want trouble. As he drove off, he prayed, God, let today be different. Let them like my work. He reached the McDan Construction office in Airport City at exactly 10 a.m. The security man checked him and allowed him in. Kwame walked into the building with hope in his chest. Today could change everything. Kwame sat in a conference room across from Mr. Mensah, the head of projects. Kwame smiled and spoke with confidence. Sir, my proposal covers cost efficiency, safety protocols, and timely delivery. I've handled several building projects. If you give me this contract, I promise you won't regret it. Mr. Mensah looked through the papers and nodded slowly. Not bad, young man. Just then, Kwame's phone rang. He looked at the screen, it was Abina. He quickly pressed the silent button. Sorry, sir. Please continue, Kwame said. Mr. Mensah raised his hand. Is everything okay? Yes, sir. Just my wife, Kwame said with a small smile. Mr. Mensah nodded and looked back at the papers. But before he could speak again, the phone rang again. Kwame sighed and muted it again. Maybe you should pick it, Mr. Mensah said, looking annoyed. No, sir, it's fine, Kwame replied. But then it rang again. And again. And again. Kwame felt sweat on his forehead. Mr. Mensah dropped the file and stood up. Is this how you handle serious meetings? If you cannot control your phone, how will you control a construction site? Kwame stood up quickly. Sir, please give me 1 more minute. I can explain. But the man pointed to the door. You are not serious. Please leave my office. Sir, please, Kwame tried. Leave. Mr. Mensah shouted. Kwame slowly picked up his file and walked out. His hands were shaking. His legs felt weak. When he got outside, he opened his phone. He saw 23 missed calls from Abina. What happened next would destroy what little was left of their marriage. Kwame stepped out of the Macdan construction gate. He stood beside the car, his hands weak, his eyes red. Then the phone rang again. It was Abina. This time he picked up. Her voice came like a slap through the phone. What is wrong with you? Why did you take my car? Who gave you permission? Kwame tried to stay calm. Abina, I had a meeting. A big one. I didn't want to be late. That's why I used it. Just for today. But she screamed, don't ever touch my car again. Are you my driver? If you need a car, go and buy your own. Kwame's voice broke. Do you know what you just did? That meeting was important. I was this close to getting a contract worth 500,000 Ghanaian cedis. But your calls, they ruined it. You made me lose everything today. Abina laughed coldly. So now it's my fault that you're a failure. Kwame sighed deeply. I'm trying, Abina. I'm really trying. I just need your support. She hissed loudly. Support yourself. Not with my things. Then she ended the call. Kwame stood still. He looked up at the sky, then down at the ground. He didn't know which one hurt more, losing the contract or hearing her talk to him like trash. That evening, Kwame opened the front door slowly. Abina was standing in the sitting room, arms folded, eyes sharp. Before he could say anything, she shouted, Where's my car key? Kwame reached into his pocket and brought it out. She snatched it from his hand. Don't ever touch anything that belongs to me again. Kwame looked at her with tired eyes. Why are you treating me like this, Abina? What did I do to deserve this kind of pain? Abina stepped forward. You married me and brought shame into my life. My friends laugh at me because of you. Kwame raised his voice for the first time. I didn't marry you for your money. I married you because I loved you. Then maybe you should have married someone as poor as you, she shouted back. The argument became loud. Kwame turned away, trying to calm down. But then Abina did something terrible. She spat on his face. Time stopped. Kwame wiped his face slowly. His hand rose halfway into the air, then he paused. His hand began to shake. He stepped back. Abina smiled. Touch me and I'll send you to jail. My father will make sure of it. Kwame looked into her eyes. She had no fear. No love. No pity. He turned around and walked to the bedroom. That night, he didn't sleep. He just stared at the ceiling, wondering how love had turned into this. But the worst was yet to come. The next morning, Kwame sat at the dining table with his laptop. He had been awake since 3 a.m. He had not eaten. He had not bathed. His eyes were tired, but he kept scrolling and sending messages, searching for contracts online. He whispered to himself, "One good job. Just one, you rate, please." Suddenly, there was a loud, aggressive knock at the door. The door shook. It wasn't a soft knock, it was loud, strong, angry. Kwame stood up slowly. His hands felt cold. He looked through the curtain. What he saw made his heart beat fast. 3 men stood at the door. One was Nana Ose, Abina's father. The other 2 were Ghana Armed Forces soldiers. Their eyes were stern, their faces hard. Kwame opened the door slowly. Nana Ose pointed his finger straight at Kwame. "So you now beat my daughter?" he shouted. Kwame was shocked. "No, sir. I didn't touch her. I swear to God, I didn't." Before he could finish, the 2 soldiers moved in. One held his hands, the other grabbed his shirt. Kwame shouted, "Wait. I didn't do anything. Please let me explain." But they didn't listen. They dragged him outside. Abina was standing by her father's Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, holding her phone. She didn't even look at Kwame. Kwame kept begging, "Please, Nana. Please let me talk. Abina is lying." Nana Ose walked away without saying a word. They took Kwame to the 37 military hospital barracks. There, he was ordered to kneel. They poured cold water on him. They gave him hard tasks under the hot acroson. They shouted at him, pushed him, made him crawl on the ground. Kwame said nothing. He didn't scream. He didn't fight back. But his heart was broken. Tears rolled down his face. He wasn't crying from the pain. He was crying from the betrayal. "How can someone I love do this to me?" he whispered. Nobody answered. That day, Kwame lost something inside him. Something that would never come back. After 3 days of torture, he would return home to the biggest shock of his life. After 3 days, Kwame came back home. His lips were dry. His face was swollen. His body had bandages. His steps were slow. He opened the front door and walked into the sitting room. Abina was there, sitting on the couch, pressing her iPhone. Kwame stood in front of her. His voice was low, but his heart was shouting inside. "Why did you lie to your father?" he asked. "Why did you do this to me, Abina?" She looked at him. She didn't say sorry. She didn't stand up. Instead, she brought out a white envelope and threw it at his face. "Sign it," she said. "I want a divorce. Leave my house today." Kwame stood still. He opened the envelope. It was real divorce papers. He looked at her again, hoping to see love, hoping to see tears. But there was nothing. Only anger on her face. Only hate in her eyes. Kwame knew this was not his wife anymore. This was the end of their love. Kwame packed his bag slowly. Just one small bag. He didn't take much. He left the gold watch she bought for him. He dropped the perfume she once gave him. He didn't want anything that would remind him of her. He walked to the door. Before he stepped out, he turned and looked at Abina one last time. She didn't look at him. She just changed the TV channel. Kwame walked out. The sky looked dark. The street was quiet. He stood outside and brought out his phone. His hands were shaking. He dialed a number. It rang, then a voice answered. "Hello." It was Kofi, his best friend. Kwame cleared his throat and said, "Please, can I stay with you for some time?" Kofi was shocked. "What happened, Kwame? Are you okay?" Kwame looked around. His eyes were red, but he forced his voice to stay calm. "I'll explain when I get there." "Come," Kofi said. "My door is always open for you." Kwame started walking. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing: this was the beginning of a new life. A painful one, but maybe, just maybe, his story wasn't over yet. What Kwame didn't know was that this painful end was actually the beginning of his greatest triumph. Kofi heard a knock at his door in East Legon. He ran to open it. When he saw Kwame, he froze. Kwame's face was swollen. There were bandages on his arms. Kofi opened his mouth wide. Kwame, what happened to you? Kwame didn't speak. He just walked in slowly and sat on the couch. Kofi shut the door quickly and sat beside him. Talk to me, bro. Who did this to you? Kwame looked at him with tired eyes. Then he said, I didn't touch her, Kofi. I swear. But her father sent soldiers. They beat me. They tied me up like I was a thief. Kofi's eyes filled with tears. Kwame reached into his pocket and brought out a paper. He gave it to Kofi. Kofi opened it. His eyes moved from line to line. Divorce papers, he said in shock. Kwame nodded slowly. She said I should sign and leave her house. No goodbye. No sorry. Nothing. Kofi placed his hand on his shoulder. You will not end like this, Kofi said. You are a good man. Everything will be fine. I promise you. That night, the two men sat on the couch. They didn't say much, but their hearts spoke louder than words. Back at Abina's house, she sat alone in the sitting room. She wore a short red dress. Her face had makeup, and her lips were shining. She crossed her legs and smiled. A bottle of Martel cognac was on the table. She poured it into a glass, took a slow sip, and leaned back on the chair. She picked up her phone and played Sarkodie's music. Then she smiled again. Good riddance, she whispered. Let him go and suffer. I don't need a broke man in my life. She felt proud. She thought she had won. She believed she was free. She laughed alone. But what she didn't know was that the same man she threw away, the same man she called broke, was about to rise again. And when he does, she will not be ready for what's coming. Time has a way of humbling the proud. Time passed slowly. Days turned to nights. Weeks became months. Kwame was still staying with Kofi. He woke up every morning, opened his laptop, and searched for contracts. He sent emails. He made calls. He went to some offices. Some people promised to call back, but no one ever did. His bank account was empty. But still, he didn't give up. He didn't beg. He didn't steal. He waited. One Saturday evening, Kofi came back home dancing. Kwame looked up from the chair. Why are you smiling like this? Kofi threw his car keys on the table and shouted, I got promoted, bro. I'm now the new regional manager for Anglo Gold Ashanti. Kwame stood up at once and hugged him tight. Wow. This is big news, Kofi. I'm so happy for you. Kofi looked at him. Are you not sad? You've not even gotten a job yet. Kwame smiled and said, why will I be sad? Your win is my win. You're my brother. Later that night, when Kofi had gone to bed, Kwame knelt beside his mattress. He whispered to God, remember me too. I'm happy for Kofi, but I also need help. His voice was low, but heaven heard it. One bright morning, Kwame wore his best shirt and left the house. He took a trotro and stopped in front of a church, Calvary Charismatic Center in Jawalo. He stood outside for a while. He was nervous, but he needed help. He walked in. Inside the office, Pastor Abraham was sitting with his Bible open. He looked up and smiled. Kwame. It's been long. How are you? Kwame sat down slowly and said, Pastor, I'm not fine. He told him everything. How Abina lied. How the soldiers came. How he was beaten. How she threw divorce papers at him. Pastor Abraham's face changed. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Kwame, I'm so sorry. I never saw this coming. But God is not sleeping. Let me pray with you. The pastor stood up and placed his hand on Kwame's head. He prayed for a while. After the prayer, the room was silent. Then Pastor Abraham sat back down. Kwame, he said, while you wait for a big contract, do something else with your hands. Start small. Kwame looked at the floor. He nodded slowly. I agree, sir. But I don't even know what else I can do. He leaned back on the chair and covered his face. His heart was heavy. He was lost in thought. But God was about to use his friend to change his life forever. That afternoon, inside the Anglo-Gold Ashanti office building in Airport City, Kofi was sitting with other top management staff. It was a serious meeting. The company had just bought land in Takoradi. They wanted to build a new regional office there. The managing director stood up and said, "We need someone strong. Someone who can handle this project from beginning to end. We don't have time for mistakes." Everyone kept quiet. Some looked at each other. No one said anything. Then slowly, Kofi raised his hand. The MD looked at him. "Yes, Kofi. You want to say something?" Kofi stood up. "Sir, I know someone. He's very good. He built a nurse engineering block back in university. He knows how to manage people. He's honest. He just needs a chance." The MD raised his eyebrows. "Who is this person?" Kofi smiled. "His name is Kwame. He's a civil engineer and project manager." The room was silent. One of the directors spoke. "We like people that are tested and trusted. But if you're sure of this man, bring him in. Let's meet him." Kofi nodded. "Thank you, sir. I will bring him tomorrow." His heart was beating fast. This could change everything for Kwame. And deep down, Kofi knew this was the right time. That evening, Kofi couldn't wait to get home. As soon as he opened the door, he shouted, "Kwame, where are you?" Kwame came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands. "I'm here. Hope all is well." Kofi dropped his bag and smiled wide. "Bro, something big just happened." Kwame looked confused. "What happened?" Kofi moved closer. "There's a new project at my office. A big one. We need someone to handle it. I mentioned your name." Kwame froze. You mentioned me." Kofi nodded. "Yes. They want to see you tomorrow. They are ready to talk. They are ready to trust you." Kwame sat down on the sofa. His mouth was open. Tears filled his eyes. He stood up and hugged Kofi tight. "Thank you, my brother. Thank you. I thought my life was finished, but you remembered me." Kofi smiled and tapped his back. "God has remembered you, not me. This is your time. Just be ready." Kwame nodded. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he whispered, "I will not fail. Not this time." He didn't sleep much that night. Not because he was worried, but because hope had returned. And when hope enters a man's heart, everything can change. Tomorrow would be the day that changed everything. The next morning, Kwame woke up very early. He brushed his teeth, took a clean bath, and wore his best clothes, a white shirt, black trousers, and polished shoes. He looked in the mirror and whispered to himself, "Today is the day." He picked up his old file, the one with his drawings and work samples. It looked old, but the papers inside were precious. Kofi was already waiting outside in his Toyota Camry. As Kwame entered the passenger seat, Kofi looked at him and smiled. "You look ready, my brother." Kwame nodded slowly. "I am. I just pray they see what you see in me." Inside the car, they didn't talk much. Kwame kept praying silently. He thought about all the pain he had been through and all the people who had forgotten him. Soon they arrived at the Anglo-Gold Ashanti building. Kofi walked him to the big conference room. 5 people were sitting there. One of them said, "You must be Kwame." Kwame greeted them gently. "Yes, sir. Thank you for this chance." The head of the meeting spoke. "Kofi told us good things about you. But we want to hear from you too. What can you do?" Kwame opened his file. He showed them pictures. He explained how he managed different building projects during his national service. He told them how he handled workers, time, and money. He spoke with confidence but with respect. After 30 minutes, the man in the middle looked at the others. Then he turned to Kwame. "We like what we see. We like what we hear. We are giving you the contract." Kwame's heart jumped. The man continued, "It's a big job. We want a full regional office complex, offices, car park, generator house, security post. The full plan is in this folder. The contract is worth 800,000 Ghanaian cedis. Kwame held the folder with shaky hands. He looked at Kofi. Kofi smiled and nodded. Kwame swallowed hard. Thank you, sir. I won't fail you. This was just the beginning of Kwame's incredible transformation. The building project went very well. Kwame worked day and night. He gave it everything. He planned well. He paid his workers on time. He followed every step of the work. The building came out strong, clean, beautiful. Anglo Gold Ashanti was so happy they even gave him a 50,000 Ghanaian cedis bonus. But that was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, another company called. Are you the engineer that built that Anglo Gold office? Yes, Kwame said. They gave him another job. Then another person called. Then another. People were now talking about him. In just 8 months, Kwame became one of the most trusted building engineers in Accra. He bought a new house, not just a small one, but a big one in East Legon. He also bought a car, a clean black Toyota Land Cruiser. One morning, he looked at the keys in his hand. He smiled. I remember the day I had nothing. I was crying in Kofi's room. Now look at me, he said. He used part of the money to open his own office, KK Engineering Limited. He hired 5 staff. He gave his first job to a young man who was also struggling, just like he once was. Kwame was no longer the man who was thrown out. He was now the man everyone wanted to meet. But success was about to take him to levels he never imagined. It was a bright Friday afternoon. Kwame was sitting in his new office in Airport City, looking at some building plans. His air conditioner was blowing gently. The office smelled fresh. Then he heard a knock. He looked up. Come in. The door opened slowly. It was Kofi. Kwame stood up at once, smiling. My brother, he shouted. They shook hands like 2 boys who just won a football match. This office is fine, Kwame, Kofi said, looking around. It's your prayers that built it, Kwame said, smiling. They sat down and laughed for a while. They remembered the days when they were both struggling. Kofi looked at Kwame and shook his head slowly. You've come a long way, my brother. But you're just getting started. Kwame leaned forward. How do you mean? Kofi smiled. You already build houses. Why not go into real estate proper? Kwame raised his eyebrow. Real estate? Yes, Kofi said. It's not far from what you're already doing. You can buy land, develop it, sell plots, or build houses and rent them. People are making serious money there. Kwame kept quiet for a while. Then he said, that's a good idea. Kofi laughed. It's more than good, Kwame. It's good. They talked for hours. When Kofi was leaving, he turned at the door and said, this is only the beginning. Watch what God will do next. After Kofi left, Kwame stood by the window. He looked at the busy Accra streets. And for the first time, he saw something new. He saw land and buildings and a bigger future. 2 weeks later, Kwame picked up his phone. He called his bank manager. I want to invest in some big real estate companies, he said. The man was shocked. Sir, that is a good move. You want me to help you with it? Yes. And make it fast, Kwame replied. By the end of that week, Kwame had shares in 3 of the biggest real estate companies in Ghana. One of the companies called him soon after, Engineer Kwame, we saw your name in our system. We know your work. Can you help us handle a new estate project in Tima? Kwame smiled. Yes, I can. Another company called the next day. Then another. Big men started calling him. Kwame's name began to spread all around Accra. His company account was growing. He had to hire more workers and expand his office. But while Kwame was rising, someone else was about to fall. It was a quiet afternoon in Kumasi. Far away from the busy city, Abina sat in her father's house alone. The curtains were closed. The TV was off. A cold cup of Milo sat beside her, untouched. She looked tired. Her eyes looked like someone who had not slept well. Then her phone rang. She picked it slowly. Daddy, she said. Her father's voice came through, sharp and serious. "Abina," he said, "it's been 2 years since your divorce. Where is your husband? Where is my grandchild?" Abina rolled her eyes. "Daddy, please. Not again. I'm getting old," he continued. "I need to carry my grandchild before I die. Daddy, please." She raised her voice. There was silence. Then she sighed and ended the call. She threw the phone on the chair and leaned back. She was tired. Tired of the same talk every time. Marriage. Grandchild. Husband. But deep inside her heart, there was something else. Regret. She looked around the quiet house. Everything was neat and fine. But she was not fine. Not at all. Unknown to Abina, her father Nana Ose was facing serious problems. Ose Construction was struggling. Big contracts were going to other companies. Young engineers like Komi were taking over the market. The old man was losing clients. His company was drowning in debt. But he was too proud to tell his daughter. Soon, pride would come before a great fall. The next evening, Abina was lying on her bed. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. Then her phone rang again. She looked at it. It was not her father. It was her father's housekeeper. She picked quickly. "Hello." The woman's voice came fast and shaky. "Madam, come quick. Your father just collapsed. We are rushing him to Komfo Anikai Teaching Hospital." Abina sat up at once. What? What happened?" "I don't know, madam. He was just talking about business problems, then he fell down. He's not talking now. Please come." Abina jumped out of bed. She grabbed her car keys with shaky hands and ran outside. She entered her Range Rover and started it. As she drove out of the gate, she began to pray. "Please, God. Not now. Don't take my father. Please." Tears fell down her cheeks as she sped through the Kumasi roads. Her hands were shaking on the steering wheel. She remembered his voice on the phone, "Where's my grandchild?" She drove faster. Abina rushed into Komfo Anikai Hospital. She didn't even wait to park her car properly. She ran straight to the front desk. "Please, where is my father?" "Nana Ose. They brought him here." A nurse looked up quickly. "Calm down, madam. Please wait." Just then, a doctor came out of one of the rooms. His face was not smiling. He walked slowly toward her. "Are you his daughter?" the doctor asked. Abina nodded fast. "Yes. I'm Abina." "Where is he?" The doctor looked down. Then he spoke softly. "I'm sorry. Your father didn't make it. He had a massive heart attack. He was brought in too late." Everything around Abina went silent. She couldn't hear anything else. Her knees became weak. She dropped to the floor and cried out loud. "No. Daddy. No. You can't leave me like this." 2 nurses ran to her. They held her and helped her up. But her body felt empty. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was heavy. There was no one to hug her. No one to say, "It will be okay." She was all alone. Alone in a cold hospital with pain that words could not explain. But the worst news was yet to come. Nana Ose's funeral was big. Very big. Many people came. Big men in black suits. Rich women in expensive dresses. Long black cars. Flowers everywhere. But Abina did not see any of them. She sat under the white tent, dressed in black clothes, crying. Tears did not stop. Even when people tried to comfort her, she didn't answer them. Her eyes stayed on the coffin. Her heart was broken into pieces. Later that day, she returned home, her father's house. The only place she now called her own. But as soon as she stepped out of her car, 2 men in black suits walked toward her. One of them held a brown file. "Good afternoon, madam," the taller one said. "We are from GCB Bank." Abina frowned. "GCB Bank? What's this about?" The man opened the file. "Your father took a big loan. He used all his houses except this one you're living in, and even his company, as collateral. Abina's mouth opened in shock. What? We're sorry, but now that he's gone, you have 30 days to pay up, or everything will be taken over by the bank. He handed her the file. Then both men turned and walked away. Abina just stood there, shaking. She opened the file slowly. Tears fell again. The houses were no longer hers. The company was gone. Everything her father left behind was now going to the bank. She fell to the floor right there at the gate and cried again. This time, not just for her father, but for everything she had lost. And the fear of what would happen next. Things were about to get much worse. Abina walked into GCB Bank headquarters in Accra. Her eyes were red from crying. She sat in front of the loans manager and tried to keep calm. Please, she said softly, just give me more time. My father didn't mean to owe you people. He was sick. The manager looked at her. He didn't smile. Madam Abina, he said, your father signed everything over to us. The company, the houses he was living in, and even his shares. That was 5 years ago. Abina's heart jumped. 5 years ago, she asked, shocked. But he never told me. We gave your family notice, the man said. Many times. But nobody answered. We waited. Now he is gone, and we've taken over everything. The company is no longer yours. Abina shook her head. No, this is not fair. The man opened a drawer and brought out a thick file. Look, he said, placing it in front of her. Your father used Ose Construction as loan backup. He didn't pay. Now this bank owns it. We are putting it up for auction next week. Abina stood up slowly. Her legs were weak. She walked out of the building without saying another word. Outside, she looked up at the sky and whispered, Daddy, why didn't you tell me? Why did you leave me like this? But there was no answer. Only silence. The auction would bring the most shocking surprise of her life. 1 week later, the auction for Ose Construction was set to begin. The hall at the Kempinski Hotel was filled with important business people. They wore nice suits. Cameras clicked. Papers were passed around. Abina sat quietly at the back. She didn't want anyone to see her. Her eyes were fixed on the auction stage. That was her father's company. The company he spent 35 years building. Now it was being sold. The auctioneer picked up his microphone. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting the bid for Ose Construction Limited. This company comes with 4 office buildings, 2 warehouses, residential properties, and over 400 staff. Bidding starts at 2 million Ghanaian cedis. Hands went up. 2.2 million Ghanaian cedis, someone shouted. 2.5 million Ghanaian cedis. 3 million Ghanaian cedis. The numbers kept going up. Abina felt sick. She covered her mouth with her hand. She wished it was all a dream. 4 million Ghanaian cedis. 5 million Ghanaian cedis. Then suddenly, a new voice said, 6 million Ghanaian cedis. The room went quiet for a second. The auctioneer looked around. Final bid, 6 million Ghanaian cedis. Going once, going twice. Sold. He pointed to the man who made the bid. Sold to KK Engineering Limited. Abina's eyes flew open. KK Engineering, no, it can't be. From the side door, Kwame walked forward. He looked confident, calm, and very different from the man she once called poor. He shook hands with the auctioneer and signed the papers. He was now the new owner of her father's company. Abina held her chest. She could not breathe well. Everything felt like a movie, but it was real. The man she once pushed out of her life had just bought everything her father left behind. And she was just standing there, watching it happen. The confrontation that followed would change both their lives forever. After the auction ended, Abina stood outside the hotel, waiting. Her eyes were fixed on the door. Then Kwame walked out, holding the final documents. She stepped forward quickly. Kwame. Please wait. He turned and looked at her. Calm. Quiet. Strong. You bought my father's company, she said, her voice shaking. Why? After everything that happened, Why would you do this? Kwame looked at her for a long moment. Then he spoke. His voice was low but firm. Your father never liked me. He sent soldiers to beat me up. He looked at me like trash because I had nothing. Abina looked down. She had no words. I didn't do this seeking revenge, Kwame continued. My success isn't about mocking you. He stepped closer. I did it because I worked hard. I grew. And when I saw that Ose Construction was falling, I saw a business I could save. A company with good staff who needed to keep their jobs. I bought it because I could, not because I was angry. He paused. But I won't lie. It still feels strange to stand here and watch you look at me like this. Abina's voice shook. I didn't know things would turn out like this. Nobody ever knows, Kwame said. That's why you should treat people with respect, whether they are rich or poor. Then he turned and walked to his car, a black Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Abina watched as he entered the car and drove off. She stood by the road, alone. Now she had only one house, the one she lived in. But no job. No father. No husband. And no one to blame but herself. The company was gone. The man who loved her was gone. All she had now was a chance to start all over again. But this story teaches us something very deep. This story teaches us something very important. Never look down on anyone just because they are poor. Life can change in one moment. The person you reject today may be the same person you need tomorrow. Treat people with love. Treat them with respect, whether they have money or not. Kwame didn't need to become rich to prove his worth. His worth was there all along. But sometimes, life has to humble the proud to teach us this lesson. Abina learned too late that character is more valuable than cash. That loyalty is more precious than luxury. That love is more lasting than loans. Today, KK Engineering Limited is one of the biggest construction companies in Ghana. Kwame employs over 500 people. He builds schools, hospitals, and homes for families across West Africa. He never married again. Not because he couldn't find love, but because he learned that true love waits. True love supports. True love never spits in your face when you're down. As for Abina, she started working as a secretary in a small company in Kumasi. She lives quietly now. Every day, she passes by billboards with KK Engineering logos and remembers the man she lost. Sometimes, she picks up her phone to call him. But she never dials the number. Because some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Now I want to hear from you, what part of this story touched you the most? Have you ever been judged because you didn't have money? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell for more powerful Ghanaian stories just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next story.